Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
Dear students, I, Dr. Shivang Patel, Associate Professor from School of Computer Science, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University, welcome you all from Chaitanya Studio of Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University for the lecture series Python Programming. So from today onwards, we are going to start this lecture series regarding Python programming. So in this unit, you will cover basically what is Python, overview of Python, getting started with Python, then after how to execute Python program or your first program, how you can execute or how you can set the Python environment, which are the different features of Python, what is Python virtual machine, which are the basic applications of Python programming, how you can develop Python programming. All these fundamental things we are going to see in this unit. So before we dive into Python programming, I am just revising few of other programming languages that you already aware. Say for example, you already aware C programming. So just like C, Fortran, or Pascal, these are all considering as procedural oriented language, or you can say that the functional programming language. Now what is the meaning of this procedural oriented language? So here in all these programming languages like C, whatever the task you want to perform, the basic focus is on the functional aspect. That means you are going to implement whatever your logic with the help of few functions, right? Or you can say that some procedures. Then after another type of programming language that you already aware, that is object-oriented programming. Here the main concept or main focus that is on the object and classes. So normally computer scientists, or you can say that the programmers, they can introduce that object-oriented programming because you can relate whatever the real life problems with this object-oriented programming easily. So it is better understanding to map whatever your real life problem with that object-oriented programming. So there are few limitations of functional programming, and then after object-oriented programming will come and that overcomings that can be removed, right? So now we are taking one simple example. Suppose you want to add two numbers, right? Now object-oriented programming, that examples are C++, Java, .NET, PHP, these are all the object-oriented programming languages. Now suppose you want to add two numbers, how you can write the code in Java? So we can see, you can write the code in Java. First of all, you can write or define one class. Say for example, I am giving the class name addition. Then after, the class body will start and you can complete the body with the curly bracket, right? Within that class, you are creating one method. That main method you have to create public static void main. Then after, you are creating or declaring some of the variables that you want to add. Say for example, integer a. You can initialize the value. You can also create another variable, say for example, integer b. You can initialize the value. Then after, you are performing addition operation, and then after you can print by using the statement system.out.println. Now here you are adding these two variables directly. Now this is the simple code for adding two variables in Java. So as we have discussed, Java is object-oriented programming language, and if you want to write a code for addition of two numbers, simply addition of two numbers, then you have to create a class. Or you can say that suppose you want to implement any logic if you want to create any program in Java, you must have to create a class, right? Same thing, suppose you want to implement in C language. In that case, you can create a function. Say for example, I am creating a function void main. Then after or before that, you are just importing the libraries. Then after, inside that main function, you are declaring two variables, integer a and b. Then after, you can write one function, that is inbuilt function printf, and you are adding these two numbers. Format specifier that you are implementing here, and you can write a plus b. So this is all about the C programming, right? Now the length of the code almost same in both these programming languages, whether you are following C language or whether you are following Java language. In Java language, that supports object-oriented programming. So everything you have to present or implement with the help of classes and object. So for simple addition program, you have to create a class, or you can say that you cannot implement any code in the Java without creating at least one class, right? So programmers that aware that anything you want to implement, it is required to create a class in object-oriented programming Java language. Or suppose you want to perform addition operation in C language, then again you have to create this function. So if you are following the C language, then the style of programming that is simple compared to any other programming language. And if you are following this object-oriented programming, then you get the feature or power of object-oriented concepts. But here you have to create class. But suppose in the requirement of any of the code, which is not required to create a class or object, it is simple calculation, right? In that case also, you have to create that class and object concept. So these limitations of few programming languages, that's why it is required to create a new programming language called such as Python, in which the strength of C language or the simplicity code that can be derived, whatever the style you are following in C language, that can be derived in Python, as well as the powerful feature of object-oriented concepts that can be also implemented in Python. So you can say that for simplicity, whatever the coding style that can be derived from C language, and if you are requiring some object-oriented features, in that case, that can be derived from these object-oriented programming languages, right? Now, the same thing you want to perform in the Python programming. So you can say, suppose I would like to add two numbers. In Python, you can write a equal to b equal to, say for example 10, or say for example a equal to 10. Then after you can write b equal to 20, and then after you can write print sum and a plus b. Now you can observe here, the code is very simple and short compared to previous two programming languages. So you can get idea, if you are following, if you are performing any of the logic or implementation of your code in Python, then the main advantage is the length of that code that can be minimized. Second advantage, that is whatever the simplicity of the C programming, that is functional oriented or procedure oriented approach that you can use in Python, same way some additional features of object oriented concept that you can also implement in the Python. So we can say that the Python is the mixture of both the programming languages, that is procedure oriented language as well as object oriented language. Now moving towards the slide, we are starting with the definition. First of all, what is Python? So as you already aware, Python is nothing but a programming language. But which kind of programming language? So you can say that it is the general purpose, it is dynamic, garbage collected, high level, interactive, interpreted and open source programming language. It was invented at 1991. The invention that made by Guido van Rossum, who has invented that Python programming language. at National Research Institute of Mathematics and Computer Science in Netherlands. Right? So this is the brief about the Python programming language. Now actually the development that was started on 1989. Now why the idea that came into mind to that Rasam? Say for example, he was working in C language and he was creating some system utilities. At that time, he has to deal with shell programming also. So he observed that there will be some gap between C programming and the shell programming. So he got an idea how to remove such kind of gap by creating some other programming language, and that is nothing but the Python programming, right? So while on the project for develop system utilities in C, the gap between C and the shell programming that can be used in Unix or Linux operating system, that can be removed by creating this Python programming language. Now you think that why the name Python? So whenever this language was introduced by Rasam, at that time one very familiar show, that is British show, comedy series, that is Monty Python's Flying Circus, that was running, and whenever he was developed that programming language, he has given the name or he has picked up the name Python from that particular comedy series or serial, right? And you can observe the logo of that particular Python, that is intertwined snakes are there, two intertwined snakes that is available in the Python. We will deeply see how you can install the Python, how you can setting up the environment, but before that we are just discussing the basic features of Python, right? So first, it is simple. Now why it is simple? The programming is easier, that's why it is simple. You can say that it is high level language, and whatever the keywords that you are using for creating Python program, they are just like English language. So whenever anyone can see that Python code, he or she can easily read that code because it is just like a English language, right? That's why it is simple. So readability is the main feature here. That's why the Python is the simple programming language. Then after easy to learn, why the Python is easy to learn? Because compared to any other programming languages, whatever the reserved words or you can say the keywords that are minimal in Python programming, right? And those keywords that you have to arrange in some specific way based on the predefined syntax to create a program. So compared to other programming language, it is easier to code in Python programming because lesser amount of keywords or reserved words. Then after open source, Python is open source, you don't have to pay anything. You can just download that Python from python.org, that is the official website available. You can download for any of the operating system, whether it is Windows, whether it is iOS, whether it is Linux or Unix platform. So multiple versions that are available. You can easily download, no any cost, it is freely available. Whenever you are downloading that particular source code, you can read it, you can modify it, and as per your requirement, you can use in your own project, in your own application, right? So there is no requirement to pay anything if you want to download that Python. That's why it is open source, right? Then after high level language. Now you already aware basically two categories of programming languages, that is low level and high level. Now low level language is nothing but the machine language. You can say that it is in the form of zeros and one. So human cannot understand that zeros and one. That's why you can say that it is the lower level language, and it can be easily understandable with the CPU, or you can say that without any change or without any conversion, directly these low level languages that can be understandable by the CPU. That's why it is called low level languages, but human cannot understand. Now what is high level languages? So it is just like a human being, or you can say that the English like language, that normal words that we are using, the phrases in English language, the same can be used here in this kind of programming languages. But what happened? These keywords, or you can say that English phrases that cannot be understandable by the machine. So you have to convert that high level language into low level language, because that CPU can easily understand, right? So for humankind, it is easier to readable, and for machine, it is required to convert, right? So Python is considering as the high level language. For conversion, compiler are also there, interpreter are also there. We are going to discuss in detail this compilation and interpretation concept. Now next is dynamically typed. So as we have discussed basically two programs for addition, one in Java and one in C language, you have already seen that if you want to declare variable A and B, you have to mention some data type before that particular variable name, right? That's why you can assign the value, and accordingly that value will be considered of which type. But here in the Python, there is not a case. Whatever the values you want to write, that will be considering as object. The value based on that, the type will be selected. So in Python programming, it is not required that to declare any of the data type. That's why it is considering as dynamically typed. Then after platform independent. Now what is platform independent? Whenever you are creating a Python program, whenever you are compiling that code, then one intermediate code will be generated, and that is nothing but the bytecode. Now that bytecode you can easily execute on any of the platform, irrespective of any configuration of hardware or any operating system. That's why you can say that it is platform independent. Then after, it is portable. So that Python code or the compiled Python code that can be executed on any of the machine, the output will remain the same. That's why you can say that it is the portable. Then after, procedural and object oriented. Here it is the mixture of these two features, because the C style coding that can be derived here, right? And the powerful feature of object oriented that can be derived from object oriented concepts, right? So these are the few features. Now we are concluding our session. In today's session, we have basically discussed why Python is more important or suitable programming language than other programming languages. We have already compared one functional programming language, that is C, and one object-oriented programming language, Java. Then after, we have seen the inventors who has invented that particular Python. Then after, we have seen few of the features. Now in next session, we are going to discuss few more features of Python programming. We will also discuss how to set Python environment to create Python programming, right? Till then, keep learning. Thank you.